everyone, and welcome back to News Aplenty. I'm your host, Sam. This is my co-host, Bailey.
Hey, Sam. How you going?
Good, and we've got Charlie back here with us.
Fantastic to be back, Sam. Hello to you, and good afternoon to you as well, Bailey.
Good man, Charlie.
Yeah, we've had a bit of a break, but we're keen to get back. So, Charlie, what have you been up to? How was your weekend?
The weekend was great. Umpired on Saturday, went to footy on Sunday. Oh, it was Mother's Day yesterday, by the way. I forgot about that. Oh, yeah. What did you get for your mum? Both of you.
I got a bit of a nail voucher that we'll go to together.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, what'd you get?
I got her a Utopia Skin Solutions gift card worth $100, and I split it 50 each with my twin brother. His name's Angus.
It's a man who does his research. Well done, mate.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, what about you? How was yours, Bailey?
My present is under confidentiality because it hasn't been received yet, and I know you're watching, Mum, so you're not getting away anything just yet.
Shout out to Bailey's
You'll
mum.
get there.
All right. Thanks for that, everyone. So, Bailey, let's get into it. What do we have?
Well, first, we have a News Aplenty First coming up for the show today. We are lucky enough to have an independent election candidate coming live on the show, and you'll hear more about that later. We have an emotional look at the strain of the COVID pandemic for international students. Another loaded sports section with Charlie, giving us the latest sport news. And Elvis is in the building. Not this one, and it's not Charlie. But an exhibition for the King of Rock has opened in Bendigo, and we've been down to let you know what it's all about. But first, let's get into the news headlines.
Over 900,000 people tuned in last night to watch the second federal election debate between Prime Minister Scott Morrison and Anthony Albanese. The fiery debate turned into a shouting match as they argued over cost of living, climate change and the economy. Pre-poll voting begins today, and Labor is ahead of the coalition with only less than 2 weeks until Election Day.
Prime Minister Scott Morrison says gay students are not being expelled from religious schools. He plans to reintroduce the failed Religious Discrimination Act without extra protections for gay and transgender students. He said if the coalition won government, he would introduce the Religious Discrimination Act on its own and amend the Sex Discrimination Act sequentially.
60 people have been killed after a village school in eastern Ukraine took a direct hit in a Russian air raid. About 90 people had been using the school as a shelter after the previous place of refuge had been destroyed in an earlier attack. Russian attacks in the east and south intensified over the weekend ahead of Monday's symbolic Victory Day celebrations.
Scientists are developing magnetically guided microscopic projectiles that can be injected into patients' blood to attack breast, prostate, and other tumours. Led by researchers at Sheffield University, the project builds on progress in viruses that specifically attack tumours and on soil bacteria that manufactures magnets which they use to align themselves to the Earth's magnetic field.
2 men have sadly died and 3 people are in critical condition after a horrific crash on the Centenary Highway at Spring Mountain. 5 people were trapped in 3 cars, with information suggesting a car drifted into oncoming traffic early Sunday morning. Paramedics on the scene stated there were hazardous driving conditions.
The Bureau of Meteorology says a wet weather system could cause flash flooding in Queensland and prolonged rain in Sydney over the next week. The BOM estimates that western and inland parts of Queensland could receive as much as 250 millimetres of rain and pose a prolonged flood risk for areas of the state that are already on flood watch. Queensland's Premier Anastasia Palaszczuk said the government and agencies would be monitoring the rain very carefully.
John Lee has been elected as Hong Kong's chief executive. He was the sole candidate receiving 1,416 votes and only 8 voted not to support him. Pro-democracy protesters marched near the election venue with signs and banners demanding universal suffrage. This would allow people to vote for both the legislature and the chief executive. Mr. Lee has forcibly implemented China's harsher regime under a national security law that has been used to arrest scores of Democrats, disband civil society groups and shutter liberal media outlets such as Apple Daily and Stan News. He commences his new position on July 1st.
And Australian footballer Sam Kerr has put an exclamation mark on a landmark week by scoring 2 stunning goals to power Chelsea to a 3rd consecutive Women's Super League title. With Chelsea 2-1 down to Manchester United and their title hopes in danger, Kerr struck a crucial volley to equalise at the start of the second half, which helped launch the 4-2 comeback win. It's been a dream week for the Matildas captain, who was crowned as the English Press Writers Women's Player of the Year earlier in the week.
Now, on to our main story. As Australia opens up its borders to the world, international students are beginning to flock back to universities. For many of these students, the COVID-19 lockdowns took an extra toll on their mental health. International students also stuck in the country found it extra difficult to adapt to those unprecedented times away from family and friends. Stephen Zoyce reports.
As Australia's borders reopened to the world following the COVID-19 lockdowns, universities and tertiary institutions have been preparing themselves for an influx of international students to grace their grounds once again. Unfortunately, though, the rate that these students are returning at has decreased over the last couple of years. A recent survey of students stranded abroad by the Council of International Students Australia found about 93% of the 607 participants have had their mental health affected by studying online in their home countries. 9 out of 10 students said they experienced stress, and more than 2/3 reported self-diagnosed anxiety or self-diagnosed depression. More than a quarter of the students said they had thoughts of self-harm. Clinical psychologist Glenn Hosking believes that more needs to be done to assist international students studying in the country.
This is a really big issue, and I think that given the challenges that are there, we do need better access for mental health services for people who are international students or people who aren't able to access things like Medicare. We have a great system of mental health care in Australia, where if someone is an Australian resident or an Australian citizen, that they have great access to mental health through Medicare, through a better mental health outcomes scheme, which is fantastic. But if people are international students, they don't have that access, and therefore they need to rely on other services.
Pravina Savakama is an international student studying at La Trobe University. Originally from Sri Lanka, Ms. Savakama has spent the last couple of years stuck in Australia, uncertain of when she'll be able to see her family again. These unprecedented times have made it extremely difficult to cope.
In my 20 years of life, I heard isolation, quarantine for the first time in life in 2020, those words itself.
Having experienced periods of homesickness and anxiety, Ms. Savakama agrees that mental health care for international students needs to be prioritised.
That should be there, the mental health, because you know how COVID was spreading. I myself personally was very scared to go out, became even more introverted because I just went out to get groceries and once in 3 weeks. So probably a bit of mental health and help with you shouldn't be scared of COVID or anything. I think that's a good point.
Mr. Hosking also believes that there are a multitude of benefits of having international students study in Australia.
International students are an enriching experience for universities in a number of ways, but as an educator, I think it's really helpful having international students who can bring a sense of cultural diversity to any kind of higher education course, degree or unit, which are really important for all students to appreciate.
This has been Stephen Zoyce reporting for News Aplenty.
Max Dix, an independent Victorian Senate candidate who's been campaigning in the Agora this afternoon, joins us now. Welcome, Max.
Hey, Max.
Thank you guys for having me here.
Yeah, thanks for
Pleasure.
coming.
Why have you, obviously you've been around in the Agora today, Max. What brings you here and why have you been campaigning in La Trobe?
I used to go to La Trobe. I
really?
Lived at Glen College for a year. I was studying a Bachelor of Science. I've previously been the president of the fencing club. And I have a strong connection to La Trobe and the La Trobe community.
Have you been to any other universities or just to La Trobe?
Not yet. I do plan to go to other ones, but I wanted to start here.
Yeah, nice. And we know we've seen you out and about, but tell us about your slogan you've got going on here. Obviously,
Beautiful,
you're wearing
beautiful sign, by the way, and just a t-shirt
This is just the generic everyday slogan.
Mm-hmm.
I have my Max Dix, it's in your hands, to, standard political slogan, I know, but I think it works well with my name.
Yeah.
And last time I did run last federal election. I had, don't be a dick, elect one.
So that is your real name, Max Dix?
Yes, that is what Maxwell. It is
Maxwell.
technically Maxwell. No one ever calls me Maxwell. It's always been Max.
The nickname basis.
Well, it's almost just my name.
Yeah.
Like, I think I have one friend who occasionally calls me Maxwell. I don't even think my mum does it anymore. So,
Okay, and we've been doing some research. You're currently a locksmith for the past 9 years. But what made you want to shift into politics?
I feel like I am an outgoing, honest, and genuine person, and I feel like politics needs more of that. A lot of people decide that they want to become a career politician. They start at local government, or they start at a small like the Young Liberals or something, and move their way up into that sort of field. I think that there is a big disconnect between what politicians are right now and what they should be. And so average, everyday people should give it a go. And if I can convince somebody else to actually go out and run for politics themselves, I'd consider that a win. Even if I don't get elected myself, if I can inspire somebody else to do it, that'd be a good thing.
Yeah. So you mentioned that outgoing, like just being like your personality, genuine personality. Is that kind of one of the main policies you're going to bring forward? And if there are other ones, what other ones would they be?
So being outgoing and genuine is not so much a policy. That's the kind of thing that I would like to bring to politics.
Yep.
What I would like to do in politics is I feel like the two-party system makes it deliberately difficult to engage with and understand politics. That advantages them. I would also like for them to meaningfully engage with the electorate outside of the electoral cycle. Once every 3 years isn't good enough. You don't take them, put them on a horse and send them to Canberra anymore. The internet exists and our opinions matter all of the time. I would also like to improve emotional intelligence in society. I feel like that makes everybody's life better. And I am a young person. I care about the environment. I don't have any kids yet, but I'd like some. And I would like there to be a world for them to grow up in.
Yeah.
And so you previously said you were back in 2019, you were elected, and in the last election you had 1,207 votes. How are you hoping to get the other 600,000?
With great difficulty. It's really hard to get your name out there, even a memorable and distinctive one, when you don't have a whole heap of money. I am entirely self-funded. I have had some support from people my friends and family, but that's normally them helping me out or telling other people about me. It's all my money. I'm going around doing it all myself. I don't have $80 million to spend on a campaign like Clive Palmer does. It's going to be very difficult, but I'm really imploring everybody to tell people that I exist so that they can look me up. If you Google Max Dix, I am the number 1, the number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5 result. If you click on images, it's photos of me.
That's a relief.
Yeah. Well, people don't believe it, but if you're looking for what you might expect, that's not what you type in. So, prior to me running for the Senate, my personal Facebook page used to show up. That's how uncommon it is for somebody to type that in. So, let everyone know that I exist. Maybe I'm what they want in a politician. Hopefully I am.
So, Max, I think we know who you might be voting for when it comes to voting in the Senate, but we're interested in, obviously, in the party system. Who are you leaning towards voting for in the House of Representatives at the moment?
I am supportive of a lot of what the Greens are trying to do. I have a lot more focus myself on defence, and so that's why I choose not to align with them and a couple of their other sort of policies. But I think that having Greens in the lower house, being able to advocate for the environment and the little guy, is a good thing, I would be more supportive of a Labor government getting elected. I don't like how the Liberal Party's doing things at the moment. They're a big group of people. I don't hate everything, but it's my preference is leaning more towards the left.
Yeah, why would that be? Would things say such as obviously we had the leaders debate last night. I don't know if you tune into that, but like what leans you towards Labor more than the Liberal?
I suppose it's just the different focus of the parties. So Liberal likes to advocate for expanding the economy as a means of making everybody else's lives better. And I think that with the economy itself slowing down, and that being very hard to do with all of the other global economies that we're competing with, I just don't think that that's a effective way of making the lives of an everyday person better. So my focus is more on using what resources we have more equitably.
Lovely. Max, I think that's all we've got time for. Sorry. Thank you for joining us, and it's been a pleasure to have you here, and really appreciate your time. Good luck when it comes to election time as well.
Thank you both for having me on.
Yeah, of course.
Lovely.
Yeah, sweet. Now, the king of rock and roll, Elvis Presley, has arrived at the Bendigo Art Gallery for a new exhibition. Our reporter Taylor went to see if Elvis was as good as they say.
Bendigo. It's known for its cathedral, the QEO, poppet heads, famous heritage trams. And now, Elvis apparently.
Well, get out of that kitchen and rattle those pots and pans. Get out of that kitchen and rattle those pots and pans.
The king of rock and roll, Elvis Presley, began his singing career in Memphis before a string of hit songs and runaway smash hit films catapulted him to international superstardom. Today, nearly 45 years after his passing, amazingly, he's still beloved the world over. So much so that a collection of his personal belongings and life's work have found themselves in the Victorian town of Bendigo. Let's go take a look. That's right, the glitz and glamour of Graceland has found its way to the bustling streets of Bendigo, with the Elvis Museum in the United States loaning out cherished items to the Bendigo Art Gallery for a new exhibition. The exhibition details Presley's upbringing, his career in show business, and showing off his extraordinary style sense. I was still a little stumped though. Why was Elvis in Bendigo of all places? So I asked Lauren Ellis, the curatorial manager at the Bendigo Art Gallery, to help me out.
So Bendigo has for some years positioned itself as a place to come for cultural experiences. So cultural tourism is a really big part of the Bendigo experience. And even for people living in the city, you know, part of what makes the city really special is that it's a very creative city. You know, it's got beautiful restored heritage buildings. It's got a vibrant, you know, First Nations presence of the Djadjurrung people who are traditional owners here, and lots of artists and creative folks live in Bendigo. So already there's sort of a great appetite for creative and cultural experiences in the city. And then the gallery has a strong history of programming around sort of fashion and couture and textile design, and also style, iconography. So we have an existing audience who has an interest in that kind of thing. So yeah, it's sort of a natural marriage between Bendigo's strengths as a city, the gallery's expertise in curatorial work, and then Elvis himself.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. You're really a fantastic audience.
Businesses in Bendigo are hoping to ride off the success of the exhibition, as Elvis, direct from Graceland, is expected to bring millions of dollars into the local economy.
We are so lucky here at the gallery to have incredible support from the Bendigo community. So you might have seen around town, or visitors to Bendigo will see there's a big Viva Bendigo campaign that the whole city's gotten into. So all kinds of local businesses, accommodation, retail and restaurants have come up with clever ways to activate their business linked to the Elvis theme. So lots of people doing kind of, you know, bespoke experiences or special temporary products or menu items and so on. So we've had a great deal of support, and I think, you know, just walking around Bendigo, the town has a great buzz about it, and yeah, we're really grateful that the communities behind us. So we have put lots of energy into promoting and marketing within Melbourne to make sure Melburnians know the exhibition's on. But we've also got promotion and advertising happening right across the country, so lots of national media coverage, advertising in places like Sydney. So casting the net as wide as we can for all Australians to know that this is an opportunity to come and see Elvis. Once in a lifetime opportunity to come to Bendigo to see the stuff.
I'm from Launceston in Tasmania, so a little way. So I've caught a bus, a plane and a train to get here.
We come from Phillip Island, but we actually been to Beechworth, and we decided to come out. Well, we had booked the ticket, so we came across to Bendigo yesterday. So we're staying
a few
days with our caravan.
Yeah, nice.
From Launceston in Tasmania.
We've travelled from Ballarat today to see this, yes.
Yeah.
Ballarat, which is 128 k's. Yeah, that'll be about right.
Oh, look, I just think he was a beautiful person.
I just loved him. He was just the ants pants when we were kids.
Back in the day.
Yes.
Oh, he was just so fabulous in his day and still is, even all these years later.
If you want to catch Elvis at the Bendigo Art Gallery, you've got until July 17 before everything goes back to Graceland for good. For News Aplenty, this is Taylor Collins saying thank you. Thank you very much.
Very cool. Well done, Taylor. Thanks for that. Have we done much Elvis listening, guys, or is it just the Jailhouse Rock, or?
Look, I'm not that big of a fan of Elvis.
Not a 50s girl.
No, I don't think I'll be heading to Bendigo.
I think Charlie would indeed. Sure.
I haven't heard
a bit of flair
from him for the last 5 years, or let alone just done
so
anything
you won't be
to
heading
associate.
up to Bendigo?
Oh, look, it's considered just of a trip in itself.
Viva Bendigo. What a beautiful place.
If I get dragged by my parents, I'll be there. By the sounds of it.
Righto, Charlie. So it looks like we've got a sports section coming up for us.
As always, stacked. We start with a Formula One overnight in Miami. The fifth round of a Formula One World Championship had thrilling storylines of their own. However, it was Belgian-Dutch driver Max Verstappen who came away with a championship title with a time of 1 hour and 34 minutes. He was closely followed in second by Monacan and driver and the Australian Grand Prix winner of this year, Charles Leclerc. To the Aussie rules we go, and the reigning premiers continue their undefeated start to their 2022 campaign, making it 8 wins of a possible 8. The Demons dismantled a gallant St Kilda outfit by 38 points yesterday at the MCG. Elsewhere, Carlton make their way back into the top 4 with an emphatic 48-point win over the Adelaide Crows. Essendon claimed their second win of the season, defeating their close rivals Hawthorn on Saturday night from Marvel Stadium with an 8-goal final term to run away with a 27-point win. Both the West Coast Eagles and North Melbourne languish on the foot of the table with just a solitary win each. On to the NRL. The battle for the top 2 has fluctuated, with the Melbourne Storm overtaking Penrith's mantle in pole position on the league table. Melbourne were rampant with an exhilarating 42-6 win over the St George Illawarra Dragons. Meanwhile, the reigning premiers, Penrith, succumbed to their first defeat of the season at home, with the Parramatta Eels running away with a 22-20 win. To English football now, and Manchester City go one step closer to retaining their crown as champions of England, with a thumping 5-0 win over an informed Newcastle outfit at home overnight. Meanwhile, Liverpool dropped points at home on Saturday and had to settle for a 1-1 draw against Tottenham Hotspur, who are also battling for a Champions League qualification next season. To the other end of the table, Everton claimed a much-needed boost for their survival hopes with a 2-1 away win at Leicester City. Meanwhile, Burnley and Leeds were defeated by Aston Villa and Arsenal, respectively. We go back to Aussie rules now. And with a new descent rule coming in and implemented in the AFL, many have questioned whether it's played a role with umpire shortages. Furthermore, what does this implication of a new rule bring to suburban football? Samantha Smith has the story.
Participation levels in community umpiring are consistently dropping. A recent study conducted by the AFL shows that lack of enjoyment and abuse are a part of the problem in umpire shortages. A new dissent rule has been implemented into the AFL, with Gillan McLaughlin urging a crackdown on the rule.
Dissent towards umpires will not be tolerated. It's incumbent on us at the elite level to set the standards of behaviour for all levels of the game. We've fallen short as a football community, and dissent towards umpires during matches has become an issue at all levels of the game, particularly the community level, where we're still 6,000 umpires short of what we need to keep up with the participation in the game.
The new rule means that if players dispute a decision, they risk a free kick or a 50-metre penalty.
With the umpire about a decision, and then the arms go out and he pulls the 50 button.
Most AFL captains agree with the rule, with St Kilda captain Jack Steele saying the umpires are just as important as the players, so we've got to respect that. Many community and country leagues also experience similar abuse. Dean McGowan, a field umpire for the Western Region Football League, says the rule hasn't quite reached the grassroots levels yet.
But I don't think that it's necessarily trickled down to the local league. So I think it's actually been fairly consistent year on year. I think that the first couple of rounds, the players were unsure whether the community leagues were going to pick up the same severity of rules as the AFL has. So they were a little bit more timid. But I felt in the last couple of weeks that as the season heats up, as wins and losses become more important, guys get involved, they get passionate, and I believe that the dissent is probably the same. And if not, it's more talked about through media, personnel around the track. So yeah, I'd say that it hasn't quite hit the local leagues yet, and dissent's pretty consistent.
He believes community football leagues should not adopt the AFL version of dissent and maintain their own take on the rule.
I think how we've interpreted it as a grassroots level is accurate. And what it is this rule has always existed. We have always had a rule that if you show dissent to an umpire, a 50-metre will be penalised. How we've interpreted it this year is just a slightly stricter interpretation of that dissent rule. And so if players are consistently arguing, if players are showing any signs of aggression to you, if players are using inappropriate language at a significant volume, those things have now been penalised, and we've probably been a bit slack on those in years gone past. So I think it's been appropriate at a grassroots level.
He agrees that abuse has impacted the participation rates of umpires, but also suggests the focus should be on the cultural change that has happened within the last 10 years, and inclusivity and teamwork being the key asset to get those numbers back up.
So I think that's a body of work that is probably delayed, and we're now seeing the reduction in numbers because we haven't had that foresight and being proactive in recruiting umpires in a different manner. We've continued to rely on the same methods that have worked for 10, 15, 20 years, and it's now too late. So we've lost numbers, so we have to start thinking differently.
Samantha Smith reporting from News Aplenty.
Thank you, Sam, for that. And obviously, umpire, very topical story going around the media. We have our very own here, so we've been very careful not to be giving away any abuse or anything of that matter. But I hear
that's 50.
I hear, Charlie, that we have the best hair in the WRFL, the Western Region Football League, right here. Have we got video proof of this? We've got it right there.
Some say it is, and other times I just bloody cop it in terms of getting a haircut.
Here it is.
It is. There we go. Look at your
move.
move.
Look at Charlie.
That's at the Spotswood ground. That's currently trying to build a bridge over a stadium.
You could not be running further away from that. You saw that camera and just bolted, didn't you?
I was rattled getting tagged a lot. I'll give you that much.
So you said you were umpiring on the weekend, Charlie, yeah?
I was in
Yeah, so what do you think about this new rule? How do you feel about it?
I feel as long as umpires are very clear with their communication with the players, I feel it can work out really well. But also in the early stages, it seems everyone's just adapted to it already.
Yeah.
As long as there's clarification, because most of the time when there's new rules implemented, it's not that clear. That's where the angst comes from.
Yeah, makes sense.
Well, thank you. And so that will do us for today, I think, in our show. We'll be seeing you next time in 2 weeks' time. It will be our last one together. So we'll be wrapping up this semester, 12-week block. So don't miss out.
Yeah, and that's it. So follow us on Twitter at Upstart Magazine, Instagram at News Aplenty, and Facebook at News Aplenty to keep you updated on our show. Tune in next time. Don't miss out. Thank you.